In this video, we're going to discuss solving quadratic equations using the quadratic formula. So here's what the quadratic formula says. It says if ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, then we know that x is equal to negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So using the formula is just a matter of making sure the equation is set equal to 0 and then substituting in the coefficients a, b, and c into the formula. So we're just going to do one example and then we're going to talk a little bit about the different types of solutions we can get and how we can identify ahead of time what type of solutions we'll get. So for example here, let's solve 4x squared plus 1 equals 8x. So the first step is to make sure one side is 0, so we'll subtract 8x. So the coefficient on the x squared term is 4, so that's a, b is negative 8, and c is 1. So we'll substitute those into the formula. Now the formula says negative b, or we can read that as the opposite of b. So the opposite of b here would be positive 8. Since b is negative 8, the opposite of b would be positive 8 plus or minus square root of b squared. Be careful with that b squared. It should always come out positive. Even if b is negative, we're doing a negative 8 times a negative 8 there, so we should get positive 64. Which means if you're typing it in your calculator, you'll need those parentheses around the negative 8, like what I just wrote there. Okay, minus 4ac all over 2a. So you can do as much or as little of this in the calculator as you want, really. Here we get 64 minus 16 under the square root. So I should correct my statement there when I said you can do as much or as little in the calculator as you want. If you're being asked for exact solutions and they're not integers, then you're going to have to do some of this by hand. So we square the negative 8, and 4 times 4 times 1 is 16. So we have 48. That much under the square root you could probably do in the calculator if you wanted. But now we've got square root of 48, which is not an integer, so we're going to need to simplify this. So if we think of 48 as 4 times 12, well then 12 is actually 4 times 3. So since we have two factors of 4, let's do 16 times 3. So then square root of 16 is 4. So we 4 times the square root of 3. And then we can actually simplify this a little more by splitting it up. 8 over 8 plus or minus 4 times the square root of 3 over 8. So 8 over 8 is 1. And then 4 over 8 is a half. So we have 1 plus or minus the square root of 3 over 2. So we got two real solutions here. They happen to be irrational because the square root of 48. 48 is not a perfect square. But the point is we got two real solutions, and that's because the number under the square root was positive. So if the number under the square root is not positive, then something different will happen. So when we talk about the quadratic formula, if we look at that stuff under the square root, that b squared minus 4ac, that's called the discriminant. Okay, so we look at that discriminant, that number under the square root, that tells us how many solutions we're going to get. So we just saw in the last example that when the discriminant's positive discriminant, we get 2 real solutions. Let's see what happens if the discriminant is not positive. So another possibility would be that the discriminant is negative. So suppose we've taken our equation, we've set it equal to 0, and we've substituted in, and we get something like this. Okay, so if we have a negative under the square root, that's not a real number. So here we don't get any real solutions. We do get, because of the plus or minus, 2 non-real solutions. Okay, so if the discriminant is positive, we get 2 real solutions. If the discriminant is negative, we get 2 non-real solutions. There's a third possibility, though. If the discriminant isn't positive and it's not negative, then it's 0. Alright, so suppose we're substituting in to our quadratic formula, and when we simplify everything, we get a discriminant of 0. Well, the square root of 0 is 0, and adding 0 and subtracting 0 gives us the same result. Either way, that numerator is negative 8. So if the discriminant is 0, we just get 1 solution. So those are the 3 possibilities. We either get 2 real solutions, 2 non-real solutions, or 1, this was a real solution. So we get only 1 real solution if the discriminant is 0.